Hey there, it's just me, the Queen Time Machine, Dr. Brenda B. And you know that my first question for you is how you spending? Because we've been given another deck of 86,400 seconds from our Creator. And because I represent the kingdom and the kingdom's time zone, God's clock and creation's watch, I must pause and say, how you spending? Because we have choice. We get to choose how we spend our seconds. We choose to win, we choose to lose, and not choosing is a choice. So I am asking for one solitary second that we stand in solid solidarity for 1 minute of every post that I make. So for every minute that my post is, and I will always tell you how many seconds I'm asking back, but I'm asking for 1 second for every 1 minute of my post that we stand in solidarity. And that just means that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you are by yourself and if you are with the other 8.6 and rising people on the planet, just taking 1 second for every minute of my post to agree on the 1% that we can coalesce around, on the 0.01% that we can coalesce around, and that we give it 100% of just pure focus. Just focus to choose those seconds on helping to advance global peace, positive change, repositioning our planet for prosperity of all on behalf of the Creator's kingdom, because it is the kingdom time zone and it is God's clock and creation's watch. And we have an opportunity not just to wait, not just to pray, but we have an opportunity to watch what's going on in the atmosphere, to watch what's going on in the water, to watch what's going on in the land, to watch what's going on in our homes and in the structures and the constructs of culture, the climates as they shift, and the trends and traditions that we put in place and honor or dishonor, that we keep or never repeat, but all with an intent of solidarity, symbiotic oneness, like-minded indivisibility, deliberate alignment, respecting individuality, travailing yearns. As we travail, when we come together in solidarity, then we have this symbiotic thing that we get to do. We get to coalesce. We get to say, hey, yeah, that's important to me too. Peace is important to me too. So as much as I may not like a person or a situation or a rule, what I do want is peace. And if I want peace, that means that I have to be willing to create peace spaces. If I don't create spaces of peace, then how can I expect there to be peace? So when we're looking for liberty and justice, it starts with just us. Justice is all about just us. So that 1% that we can give 100% to, or that 0.01% that we can give 100% to, of course, we can debate about everything that we see differently. I'm asking if you would give me 1 second for every 1 minute of post that I make to just agree that we want peace, that we want positive change, that we're talking about rights for everybody, that we are respecting individuality while expecting to be respected as an individual. And I know that we can do it. I trust that we can do it. And I believe that we're already doing it. So, even though I'm not asking for permission, I'm always only here to provide a perspective that allows me to be a teacher, but then allows me to be a student. Because when you offer your perspective, then that gives us power in our choosing to coalesce around even more agreement. Because that little thing that we disagree on, maybe we call it stuffing, and maybe we call it dressing, and maybe we would never use light bread and we would always only use cornbread, and maybe we don't have cornbread if we have stuffing, and maybe we absolutely must. Whatever it may be, I'm asking us to find the point in which we can agree. So, my first question is always going to be, how you spending? Because you spending them. And it's the greatest gift, the one with most power and of highest price, because it becomes priceless when we spend them in unity and with wisdom. Now, today I don't want to be here with you too long, because I know we got toys that's getting wrapped. We got food that's being cooked. We got family and friends that we got to meet. We're waiting on Santa. We're waiting on Jesus. We're waiting on each other, and we're waiting on ourselves. So on this December 24, 2025, I'm not going to monitor your seconds. I just want you to feel free to like, to share, to subscribe, and all those things that you all already know to do and that you do so much better than me. But I want us to see the positive in the most negative of circumstances, and we have a lot of negative circumstances going on. So how can we see the positive? Sometimes the situation finds our address and we can't find the positive. Therefore, when it has not hit our address, we must offer positivity for those who cannot find it. And today, many call this day Christmas Eve. So tomorrow, I'm going to give you the story of actually the Mass of Christ, Christmas. And you know, someone told me that it is Merry Christmas as a Mary. It was a child. I just was so intrigued that it is a Mary, as in the person Mary, Christ, Mass, meaning the end of the daddy's name, Joseph. So instead of Mary, Merry, Christmas, this child was processing as Mary Christ's Mess. Parents as the bookends with the baby in the middle. I just love it. And that's called perspective. That is priceless. But I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. Tonight, let's talk about reindeer. Reindeer. Oh my. Santa's 8 original reindeer, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, come from the 1823 poem A Visit from St. Nicholas that we refer to often as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Rudolph, the ninth and now most famous of the reindeer, was a later addition created in 1939 by Robert L. May for Montgomery Ward. We've been talking about Montgomery Ward a lot during this holiday season. And Rudolph was created to boost sales, and it was inspired actually by May's own feelings of being an outcast and a foggy Chicago day, becoming a hero with his glowing nose. The original 8 come from 1823. The source, the classic poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, introduced all 8, which derive from Dutch names. Names for thunder and names for lightning, Dunder and Bliksem. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen are names that suggest speed, grace, and playfulness. Comet and Cupid are names that reference speed, love, and cheer. And Donner and Blitzen, originally Dunder for thunder and Blixen for lightning, before the ninth reindeer showed up in 1939, creator Robert L. May, copywriter for Montgomery Ward, inspired by his own shy nature, observations of fog over Lake Michigan led to this idea of a guide being needed during foggy nights. But the purpose was an advertising tool to give away free coloring books to children, and the name May considered Reginald and Rollo before settling on Rudolph. The rise to fame was because the story became a massive hit, cemented by a popular song that didn't come out until 1949, which then made Rudolph a permanent part of the reindeer team. So Santa's Flying Reindeer, the legend of Santa traveling to America with early settlers, particularly the Dutch who founded New Amsterdam, now New York, which would someday, we know, become New York. Santa Claus is mentioned in colonial publications as early as 1773. We've been talking about Santa Claus, Sinterklaas, Saint Nick, Father Christmas. But the jolly old elf's notoriety surged with the popularity of Clement Charles Moore's poem, A Visit from Saint Nick. Now, the author of the poem, there's a lot of controversy and consternation around the true author, and you should do some further research on that if you are so inclined. In the verse printed in the New York Sentinel in 1823, Santa Claus appears driving a miniature sleigh with 8 tiny reindeer, and the poem gives a further nod to St. Nicholas's European roots, with the original names of the 2 reindeers, Dunder and Blitzen, thunder and lightning. And some think that this isn't as coincidental as it may sound, because it may be associated with Thor, the Norse god, Norse, N-O-R-S-E, god of thunder, who carries a hammer named Lightning. Thor is often depicted traveling in the sky in a chariot pulled by 2 horned goats. There's also Finnish Laplander tales of a magical reindeer that can fly through the sky. Other Scandinavian legends tell of the sun traveling around the earth in a sledge, which, depending on the time of year, is pulled either by a bear or by reindeer. So when we think about the incredible intricacies of the reindeer, the 8 as they appeared in the handwritten manuscript, and you can go and search online the handwritten manuscript, and it is very readily available. The 8 as they appeared in the handwritten manuscript, A Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement C. Moore, which also helps to undergird him being the author of the original poem from the 1860s. Moore altered the names of those last 2 reindeer several times. First to Donder and Blitzen to match German Blitzen, as it appears in his 1844 rendition of the poem. Now, the modern German spelling, Donner, started to become the standard spelling from the early 20th century, long after Moore's death, though a few examples from the 19th century are actually known. Frank L. Baum, The Story, The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, in 1902, actually includes a list of 10 reindeer, none of which match those in A Visit of St. Nick's. Principal reindeers in Baum's rendition are Flossie and Glossy, and he gathers other names, Racer and Pacer, and Reckless and Speckless, and Fearless and Peerless. and ready and steady. So as we look at these various renditions by these writers, these creatives, and as they lent their talents to us, we see the variation in writing, which we see now. This is not different than how things are now when things are written. And we know with copywritten laws, which I'm going to speak to, some things we still have to be mindful of what we get to choose and to use, and that we can't. So the legend of Santa Claus traveling to America with early settlers, particularly the Dutch who founded this New York space. In the verse printed in the New York Sentinel in 1823, Santa Claus does appear driving in this miniature sleigh with these miniature tiny reindeers. And there's a further nod to St. Nicholas's roots, European roots. So as we look at, I have several references for you, not just Wikipedia.com, but also Wikipedia.com, Britannica.com, AI Verified, Christmas.com, and just multiple references. That's why some of what I'm giving you is going, you hear some repeats because different references give just a little bit of difference, and I want to make sure to honor all of them so that you, again, like I do, offer perspective. So when we had this original that has now been pretty much settled to give credit to the writer, the original writer, as we give credit to Moore being the original writer, for more than 100 years, there were only those 8 reindeer for over 100 years. So as times change, and in the 1920s, Christmas images have changed, and we've talked about that as well. And one soft drink company gained cachet with ads showing a jolly and satisfied Santa drinking Coca-Cola, not just milk. In 1939, then, is where we get Montgomery Ward jumping into the Christmas marketing space with their own holiday invention. And then it was that Chicago department store that produced a children's coloring book that featured a story by Robert L. May about a misfit reindeer, as I've already told you, which May actually said was reflective of himself. And then we see this name landing as being Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. As the inspiration for songs and movies, he easily now has become the most famous reindeer of all. So, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Rudolph's story was originally written by May, published as a book to be given to children for Montgomery Ward, and it worked. In 1949, a song, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, by Gene Autry, further popularized the character of Rudolph. The existence of Rudolph has inspired a number of less enduring relatives, mostly comedy settings, including an implied son named Robbie and a redneck cousin named Leroy, among others, and due to copyright and trademark complications. And this I thought was very important for us today. The original Rudolph character cannot enter into the public domain in the United States until 2035. So we are right now still 10 years away from the original Rudolph character being allowable in the public domain. Another critical part for solidarity. Most unofficial productions that indirectly refer to Rudolph do so by using euphemisms so they are not compromising the copyright and trademark state, which has another decade to go. So where do we see Rudolph in the Miracle of 34th Street? Run, Rudolph, Run, in Prancer, in Walt Disney Animation Studios, in Prep and Landing in 2009, Hooves of Fire in 1999. His son Robbie was introduced in the Hooves of Fire in 1999. Let's Go Dancing with Santa by Casey and the Sunshine Band. That Christmas in 2024 that features Dasher, voiced by Guz Khan, as Santa Claus's sidekicks. So we see these number of references regarding our friends, these reindeer, that we are expecting Santa to be using tonight, in some places last night, depending upon where you are in the world. It changes exactly where we are in our traditions. So I want to end today with reading A Visit from St. Nicholas. That which we may call "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." If you go to Poetry Foundation and you look at the rendition, it actually shows two. And there's a plus sign that you can click on, and you will see both versions. The first being the one by Clement Clark Moore. And then if you click the second one, A Visit from St. Nicholas, or the account of A Visit of St. Nicholas, the second one is by Major Henry Livingston Jr. So to end our time in this beautiful tradition and season, I would like to just give you the rendition that will be reflective of my time, but you can go and read them. And this is The Visit from St. Nicholas, which we call "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snugged in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their head. And Mama, in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there rose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and flew up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes did appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With an old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment he must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer, now Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder, and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away all, as leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in a fur from his head to his toe, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry, his cheeks were like roses, and his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The pump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head. My apologies. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump and a right jolly old elf. And I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose and giving a nod up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Oh, how many of us have had to memorize, have had portions of that. And technology, you see, it just my screen froze up when I was reading it because I'm reading it on my tablet versus printing it out. But I tell you, it is such a profound, moving poem and story that allows that fantasy, creativity to put a smile on our face. And I wanted to read it directly from poetryfoundation.org because of those two versions that are very similar. I hope that you will share this with the children around you and some of your older family and friends as you visit residence homes, nursing homes, seniors in their own independent or assisted living who may need some good cheer. I think they would appreciate being able to hear about Santa, St. Nick, and those 8, 9, or even 10 reindeer. So if you give me 1 second for every minute of my posts, then I think we all can smile and have a unified boast. Because it hasn't even been minutes that count up to 30. And still we remain clean. We're not advancing anything dirty, but just the joy that comes to mind when we all pause to smile. A frown upside down that maybe we haven't seen for a while. So in the morning, I will talk about the Merry Mass of Christ. But I end my post today saying Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. It is a pleasure to be here with you. The Queen Time Machine, Dr. Brenda B. Thank you for spending 29 minutes with me. It's always only until soon. Agape and shalom.